here as we continue to look for our battlegrounds. Now, it sounds like we have a bit of a delay here, so we're going to go up here and just struggle a little bit and talk more about battlegrounds. Blackheart's Bay is not available in the map pool, so you won't see it today. There we go. Finally, it comes up.
Where did that come from?
I find out when I'm drowning, I'm going to pull up a pirate map, okay? So let's talk about that.
Yeah, you play too many pirate games, my friend. Which makes me even more sad that you don't know Monkey Island.
I'm going to check it out, actually. I promised myself I would.
That is something that I found out in Taiwan, and I could never look at him with the same reception anymore. It was actually shocking. It's the foundation. It's what you start with, Monkey Island.
My foundation of video games is Halo. But enough about other video games.
The Caribbean, my friend. It's all about the Caribbean.
It's a good one. Shire is going to be our first battleground here. Looks like the bands were Sky Temple for Leftovers and Breakfast for Zealots.
You fight like a cow. You'll understand that.
It's... I know where that's from. You explain that. That's the insults they use in Monkey Island, right? Like, that's how you start the game. You insult people by calling them cow fighters.
No. That's sword fighting.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I'll check it out at some point, man. There's people in chat that are like, that game's amazing. Other people are like, what
of course it's amazing. Like, all three of them are amazing, but the first one, of course, more so than anything. But talking about first things, first map, Shire, and we are heading into our draft where Zealots now have the first pick. And also the first plan. So again, we're looking at the rework on Sonya, the rework on Medivh. Both of them had a huge impact, and of course we had quite a few changes in the meta in general. Garrosh all of a sudden, one of the main contested tanks.
Dude, he's everywhere.
Yeah, he's insane. He's played so much right now, and we have seen him as a first ban, we have seen him as a first pick. It really comes a lot down to what the teams personally believe is strong at this moment. And for Zealots, what's the ban going to be? Are they going to target Tracer? Are they going to target DAB? Or are they going to go for a meta ban? And they ban out Malfurion, so it's already a bit of a soft ban against Tracer.
Yep. Having that foundation between Tracer and Malfurion is typically something you go for, but a lot of our teams are also not too afraid to move in to the Tracer with a Stukov instead, making that work. So definitely still an option here for either. Hanzo gets banned out by Leftovers.
And you bring up a good point. Stukov is another one of these staples that we've seen over the past few days and also at the Western Clash. And normally it's really that fight between two healers. You either try to go for Malfurion or you try to pick up Stukov.
Yeah.
If those are denied, then usually we have Uther and also Rhaegar still as good options within the European meta. But it has been very dominant, this fight for the supports. And Sonya is an early pick, as we expected already. Leftovers had a great showing with the Poti Boss on Sonya, and Zealots, they realized that it's a priority pick for Leftovers, as they themselves already love to play with her. Zarmini, of course, favoring Sonya quite a lot. They even prioritize her now as the first pick, so good start into the draft, but that leaves a lot of good heroes open. We're still talking about Tracer, we're talking about Medivh, Garrosh, all of them still available here. And especially with Leftovers, we could even see them head into an ETC over Garrosh since Lauba just lost the deal.
Especially with us seeing that Medivh yesterday from Leftovers here on Shire. Leftovers go straight into the Tracer and the Stukov, so as mentioned before, even though Malfurion banned out, Tracer's still viable, and with the Stukov coming in, you have that save button that is available. You have to play a little bit more careful on Tracer, but it's definitely still doable here. But will Zealots move into the Medivh here on the right side?
That's a really good question, and that is something what I personally would really like them to do. I think it's definitely something they can use against Tracer, and it's also a great hero for ADRD. But I absolutely love how Leftovers start into this. We've been talking a lot about their development yesterday and about how they also just cleaned up that drafting. And you can see it again. They identify that Tracer is for them really one of those heroes that can make all the difference. And that was already very transparent yesterday when they went up against Method. And they just absolutely believe in DAB's ability to carry them with Tracer, with the damage dealer here, even with Stukov, even without Malfurion. And the Zealots' gamble was, of course, to ban out Malfurion and then hope that Tracer is not getting picked up, or if she's getting picked, that they can deal with her a bit easier. But the Leftovers, no hesitation there, Tracer together with Stukov. And we have Abathur over Medivh now for Zealots here. Garrosh, Abathur, Sonya. That's already pretty scary as well. Both of the teams starting off with a very strong draft into this.
Yeah, and a pretty huge indicator that we're not going to get that Medivh here from Zealots. Abathur usually played by ADRD. But as you mentioned, a strong indicator for Zealots as that top lane is going to be almost oppressive to play against here for Leftovers. Sonya in the top lane already very annoying, wins majority of her matchups, and is quite the bully, especially if you're not able to put any ganking pressure on the top lane. That gets amplified by Abathur here, coming in for a hat, allowing for them to go for trades that are really effective and completely melt away that backline. I'm actually really scared here for Leftovers, and I want to see how they intend to deal with that Sonya.
They definitely need to make sure that they have a very strong front line themselves. And if they go into ETC again for Lauber, then they need to be quite careful, since in especially our first game that we saw yesterday on Battlefield of Eternity, where Leftovers faced Method, Lauber was targeted a lot, and they were always trying to blow him up, and that made his life on ETC quite difficult. So if he goes into ETC again, I think they still need a strong second frontliner. Could be Blaze, that would give also some defensive capabilities later on, but we could also see something along the lines of maybe even Leoric to just make sure that after 13 and 16 he's able to Wraith walk in and make sure that he just gets the damage out of the way.
Leftovers, picking on that backline a little bit, Hanzo and Greymane, both popular heroes that Chris has played in the past. But I'm not too worried about him here. There's still Cassie up, and there's still that Chromie that he could transition to later on. Leftovers on their side, though, will be looking for their own top lane soon. Who do you think is going to come out for them? Maybe the Malthael, possibly the Blaze?
Yeah, Leoric, Malthael, and Blaze are probably the three that we're looking at this point. I feel it depends a bit on what they are thinking in terms of their main tank. If they go for ETC, I would really like them to have something hit point heavy there that has some defensive tools, as Blaze has, for example. Using the bunker here again would probably be great in that setup. Also, Blaze is not as... Blaze and Leoric have a bit of an easier time against Garrosh. When you get flipped, you can still head straight into the bunker, or you can go into the Wraith Walk and get out of it. Malthael has a few more troubles with that, so I would prefer them to go for that. And they go Muradin over ETC. Okay, for the reasons mentioned, ETC has a couple of weaknesses there when it comes to the hit point pool that can be exploited, and that's something that Leftovers don't want to risk, so they go into Muradin, and now they already have a setup where they can, from a Stormbolt, head straight into a Lurking Arm, have the silence there. Junkrat, of course, with a lot of wave play here, huge amount of displacement too, and then Stuko with Tracer.
Leftovers showed this strategy yesterday on Towers of Doom. They had their Junkrat stay a little bit more aggressive on the mercenary camps and allow Tracer to be the one that won the team fights for them with the pulse bombs. But Junkrat's still great, as you mentioned, for the wave clear and softening up the opponents to allow Tracer to be that much more effective. Zealots on the right side answered back with a Genji and an Uther. So now we have double Genji available, or of course you have the Sonya, and maybe even the Uther too, knowing ADRD. He loves to pick up healers when he can on that Ultimate Evolution. It's
a pretty scary setup for Zealots, since you have for Abathur so many targets. You can use him with a symbiote on Garrosh, Sonya, and Genji without a problem whatsoever. Genji, of course, threatening the backline quite heavily once he has Abathur available, because he can just simply jump on Tracer, jump on Junkrat, and get a lot of damage out. It's one of the reasons why we oftentimes see Abathur banned out, because this combo with Genji and Abathur is insanely strong. And the same is also true for Sonya. Once that we have Soma Transference on level 13, Sonya just gets even more survivability than she already has, and that's going to make it very difficult to deal with her. I would really like for Leftovers to get a bit more CC into the setup. They need something to keep the heroes alive. And they go for Dehaka, and I didn't really expect Dehaka to be taken, but Dehaka definitely has some tools that are able to deal with the situation, and he has a lot of sustain at the top lane too. So if they can play the macro game, then I really like it. Leftovers struggled with that a bit in the past, but they got a lot better. We've seen that yesterday. So I'm curious to see if they can really get the entire potential of Dehaka online, and if they can, I feel it's a great pick for them. And they also, of course, mirror Abathur's Global.
Dehaka just being able to sit in the top lane and just be in a spot where he just plays safe and weather the storm, so that Tracer and Junkrat can focus on the Giants, the Night Camps, and even trying to find those kills. So Leftovers set themselves up with a pretty solid draft, but if you had to pick one of these drafts, which one do you think you lead towards a little bit?
I mean, at this point, you just have to go for Zealots, because they have been playing so well at the Western Clash. So I feel their draft is a lot more all in the sense that once you commit, you have to go for it. Genji has some poke from a distance, but normally you want to really get close to the target and jump into the backline. With Abathur, you have a lot of tools there. The one factor is really Stukov for me. Stukov and DAB on Tracer. Those two... Let's put it just like this. Leftovers has a lot of good tools that they can use to shut their opponent down, but they need to make sure that they don't make any mistakes. We need to see DAB being extremely on point with this Tracer play. We need to see them with good macro calls on Dehaka, and at the same time then also linked on Stukov provide the silence whenever it's needed. So there's a lot of ifs on the side of Leftovers where I'm not sure if they're there yet. But I like the way that they draft. I like the idea again. They try to play aggressive here. And I think we're in for a good series.
Yeah, for me, I'm excited to see Mopsio on that Garrosh. He's really brought Garrosh to the scene here in the HGC Europa League play. Let's go ahead and hop straight into it here. On the left side, in the blue, it will be the Leftovers. Black Knee playing Junkrat, Lauber on Muradin, Podyboss on Dehaka, DAB on Tracer, and Linked on Stukov.
Leftovers looking strong yesterday with a big victory against Method. Today they are facing off against the Zealots with Mopsio on Garrosh, Chris on Genji, Zamani again on Sonya, Shadow Nutha, and ADRD on the Slug playing Abathur.
And here we go, straight to the lanes. As you mentioned, we'll be keeping an eye on Tracer, but for me, I'm keeping an eye on that Mopsio. See if he can land these combos and help find those picks. Mopsio really prides himself on his garish play and his team that can follow him up. And they do have strong tools. Uther into a stun after a Garrosh tosses the target should allow Genji to get that harassment, and the proper Abathur hats coming in should equal a kill, but Leftovers will look to use this wave clear, and already they're pushing that middle lane in.
The one interesting part for me about Leftovers, and especially the Tracer play we see from DAB, is how successful they are with it. Now, we have to put this in perspective first. Leftovers has, if you look at league play, a 29% win ratio, which is, of course, pretty low. They have 8 map wins and 20 losses, so not really the best ratio there. But if you then look at the amount of Tracer wins they have, they won 5 games with Tracer and only lost 2 with her. That's a 71% win ratio that DAB has on the hero. And it just shows how insanely impactful they are with this aggressive playstyle. So this is something where Zealots have to be cautious. But of course, if you look at the lineup that the Zealots are running here, it's going to be difficult for DAB to get these kills, since there are very few squishies that he can directly target and that don't have an escape available. Especially
if Uther wants to use a Divine Shield after a Pulse Bomb, that allows for Zealots to move in for a fight. And speaking of a fight about to break out, Zealots are being invaded as Leftovers come in on the top right center, but Zealots are ready to go. Even with the stuns coming out, it wasn't enough to save Stukov. And on the other side, Sonya also getting picked up.
Really impressive play here, though, by Linked. First of all, he gets jumped right away. And that was a great move, especially from Garrosh. Just making sure that he gets the stun in against 3 heroes, and then Genji darts in, and together with Abathur, that's, of course, an easy target for them. But once that Linked identified, hey, I'm going to die anyways. I'm dead. I can't get away from here. I don't have an escape. He immediately puts the lurking arm down and says, okay, let's try to at least get a counter kill. And that alone enabled them to just empower DAB to an extent where with Tracer, he can go in Zarmony and gets the counter kill against Sonya. So really nice counter play by Leftovers, but already an explosive start into our game.
And I like the attempt to invade their opponent, and they're going to continue to try and invade. A second invade down to the Giants. You want to do this against Abathur compositions, just to naturally not having the extra body can put you at a disadvantage. And Leftovers, knowing this, are trying to take away whatever they can away from the Zealots. Zealots, however, doing well on the top lane and also grabbing the Shrine on the south, are set up for a Dragon, but after the Giants have been grabbed, Leftovers can go wave clear, and they're going to be just fine.
Exactly. So the trade-off here was you lose control of 2 points, but as long as the Dragonite isn't capped, you have no real issue there. You will have the Siege Giants, and that now allows them to get a bit more clearance and a little more control over the map themselves, which allows them to grab both of the Shrines for a short period of time. But of course, the Zealots are also playing a heads-up game there, making sure that Mopsio gets the interrupt in. We have with level 4 now also a couple of talents taken again. Battle Rage on Sonya comes to mind, which is extremely powerful and one of the tools that helps her not only with the mercenary clear, but also with the survivability later on in team fights. And talk about survivability, Abathur going into that build that is by now the standard in Europe on Abathur, going straight into the Carapace build, into the shields.
Yeah, bringing the healings there, leaving the shield afterwards too, so you can hop around the map often and make sure your teammates are nice and tapped off. Gonna have a Stormbolt hit the top right corner here from Mopsio, but Lauber not gonna be looking to force that fight. My main concern right now is that top lane. Sonya is starting to really bully out this Dahaka, having to even burn his essence in a little bit early. With the hat constantly coming in, Podibus is having a difficult time and will lose a turret.
Yeah, Podibus has absolutely no chance of winning the top lane, and that's a massive issue for them. And it's not only Abathur. Abathur is already bad enough as is to deal with together with Sonya, but you also have Genji on the side. So at any point, Genji can just move up to the top and with a swift strike go in and pressure Dahaka even more. So it would really surprise me if Leftovers are walking away with top shrine control anytime soon. Which means that they are pressured at the bot lane to make sure that they are winning the bottom shrine, or at least have someone in the middle that has the ability to go for constant interrupts against the channel. So there's a lot of pressure just from the composition alone on Leftovers.
Yeah, so that means for now, Linked and Lauber are the two that are going to be doing their best to A, keep Tracer alive, and 2, to always make sure that no major gank on the bottom lane is successful. If they lose control of that bottom side, that's where a Dragon can go over to the Zealots. Zealots right now, actually in a good spot. They even peel Sonya to the top right here to grab that Night Camp.
And that's actually getting scary, because right now, with Sonya having Battle Rage available and getting the passive damage increase against mercenaries, she has an easy time grabbing that camp with Abathur. And Abathur could, in the meantime, take the top experience. Garrosh even moved in to help out with that. But now we have a massive push at the top lane with a camp. And Dehaka has already struggled the entire time with this setup, so now it's going to be even worse. Sonya can move to the top if she wants and really start pressuring the front wall and maybe even the fort itself.
This is actually looking a little scary. Shad comes in, he's going to try and delay as much as he can with Sonya and Garrosh coming in from the back line. If Shad can live here, it's going to be fine. Oh, but he gets picked off a little bit too early and a little bit too late.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a 1 versus 4 that he was trying to fight there. I don't think he expected Muradin to all of a sudden jump over the edge.
He's slamming our Divine Shield, Divine Shield. Oh, wait, we're not 10 yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit early for that. But yeah, outside of this, now we have, of course, the push going at the bot lane. And that's actually putting this into an interesting situation because, as expected, the top lane push is crazy strong with Sonya, with a camp. But we have a very similar situation unfolding down at the bottom of the map where there's not only one camp, but there were actually 2 pushing in against the fort. So it seems very likely that this is going to be in trade-in structures.
That it is. Ooh, it may be trading kills, though, as a Tracer gets picked off. Chris even being thrown over here to start putting damage on Link. Link definitely the next target, but Mobzio unable to groundbreaker him up. That means Zealots have to back up. Shad taking a little bit too much poke, though. Has to be careful as Chris turns around and delivers a swift strike.
Yeah, Shadow was a bit too far out. I think hoping to get a stun in. The problem was that Garrosh turned around and then all of a sudden Shad was completely exposed here and ate a lot of damage. But it's still the Zealots that end up with the earlier level 10 ability.
And maybe a dragon.
Yeah, and the kill against Tracer was of course part of that. So nobody moving into the mid lane. I feel that's a bit of a missed rotation here. I think reclaiming the bottom shrine would have been a problem, but we could have sent Blakidney, for example, move into the mid maybe a bit faster and just try to delay until they have the level 10 ability themselves. But they burn the dragon now down very, very quickly here. So not too much value for the Zealots with the first DK, but they also get a few structures at the bot lane, so they will still take the lead in experience.
And they'll continue to keep that lead. Junkrat comes over to start clearing out as much as they can. Leftovers are actually thinking about a kill. They jump in and Lubbard brings a Stormbolt. There goes the silence as well on top of the Garrosh, but Mobzio is doing just fine. Sadly, not Shad, as he gets tossed in the corner here and deleted.
Yeah, definitely. Not only the isolation hitting, the drag connecting, and then we see Junkrat committing to the Riptire, and he gets absolutely wrecked. So good kill for the Leftovers. And they take the lead in kills, and if you look at experience, they're still looking fine. We have the Dragon Knight putting some pressure onto the mid fort as expected, but here come the slows, the drag connects, the silence is in, and there's the kill against Sonya. Leftovers coming out swinging here.
That they are. That silence allows them to land that Sonya down. The drag also preventing any whirlwinds from being effective too, and that allows Leftovers to get that kill. So 4-2 overall, and Zealots, who are actually a little bit ahead in experience, starting to fall behind.
I'm actually, I mean, I really don't want to hype Leftovers too much because it feels like at this point we're fanboying, but considering how poorly they did in part 1 of phase 1 and how they improved to beat Method yesterday and now seeing how they present themselves against Zealot, it's really impressive. Even if they lose that series, if I'm an open, let's pretend for a second they're not making it this season, they end up in the Crucible. Can you imagine being an open division team that moves through and looks at the performance that Leftovers show currently? You're definitely the team that's like, yeah, no matter what happens, there's no way we're going to pick up going against these guys. Yeah, that's just not happening.
They're definitely looking very terrifying right now, and we'll see if they continue to improve, because they still have to eke out this win here, but I gotta say, I'm loving the new Leftovers from week 5 to week 6. Granted, we had a 3-week break between those two. Their improvement is very measurable, and we'll continue to watch them here as they group with Giants on the bottom, get 4 pushing in, go straight for the fort, and they look to grab the first fort of the game.
Yeah, great calls here as well, putting the aggression on now, going for that fort and taking it down, the early level 13 talent for them. And that, of course, puts Link now into a position where he on Stukov can have a much bigger impact on the fights as is. The normal build here, of course, with a focus on the Lurking Arm on level 1 and level 7, then within my reach. But now on level 13, the Virulent Reaction, where you can start to really lock targets down and get a root on them. So Link has a lot more playmaker potential now than he had before. And if they get that route against Sonya, against Chat, then they always have an opportunity for a quick kill.
And something we were talking about yesterday that is on display today is Skullcracker against Sonya, trying to stop that Whirlwind. Every 3 auto attacks, bringing in that mini stun. We talked where it could be viable, why you want to switch on that 7 talent, and here is a direct reason why to. Stopping the whirlwind. Gotta love seeing that from Lauber.
Exactly. We highlighted that yesterday a bit, and having that mini stun is great if you're going up against channeling abilities. Of course, you're missing out on some of the damage, since you don't rely on giving the X any longer, but they have that damage output through other heroes.
You trade the lack of damage for the lack of healing on the opposing side, right? Now the whirlwind's suddenly not popping off, and that Sonya isn't as tanky as she normally is.
Yeah, and at the same time, you also, of course, have the ability to just prevent someone from maybe getting an ability through. Talking about abilities, DAB in trouble. And this is exactly highlighting the draft concept and the idea of Zealots. DAB, as we said before, has a fantastic season on Tracer. He's absolutely great for leftovers on that hero and very impactful. But he's struggling now. And that's because he doesn't have a Malfurion to give him those heals as he's about to go in. And he's also going up against a composition where Abathur can always be that linchpin that jumps in and delivers a bit of extra damage. So DAB struggling a lot more in this game now, but already giving his team kills regardless. So right now, this is a really interesting situation that we find ourselves in with him on the hyper carry.
And also showcases a little bit there that Holy Shock build and why it can be so strong on an Uther, being
Yeah.
able to take these high mobile targets and just click and point and get a little damage in there. Tracer and Genji don't have the highest health pools, so if you're able to zap them 2 to 3 times in a team fight, you can see them get a kill. And even there, we had Shad deliver that Holy Shock to get that kill.
Team fights are actually going to be really interesting now. Muradin with level 13 has now his healing static, so that's the entire idea behind the build that we see from Muradin with his level 4 Thunderburn and then the healing static on level 13, so that you get the second clap and you have the survivability the entire time, because healing static will, of course, give you that sustain in big team fights. And I'm really curious to see how they are going to unfold, because we're playing around a lot of cool cooldowns and heroic abilities with a taunt on the side of Garrosh, for example, but also the silence that we see for Stukov himself. And at this point, the teams are starting to group up a lot more, so we will see more team fights pretty soon.
Yeah, Leftovers are looking for a fight. They have a small tan advantage here for a little bit. A 16 is about to be hit for Zealots as Garrosh soaks in the bottom lane and also grabs that shrine. Chris is positioned to make sure he can delay this dragon from being grabbed and should just do fine there. Now, we have 16 soon. Will Garrosh come in and start to fight with the rest of Zealots as soon as that hits?
Yeah, Garrosh currently doing well down here against Potiboss, and the rest of the team is also moving in. He's trying to burrow away, but there's just no chance. Riptire comes in, they're trying to keep him alive, and all of a sudden silence is there.
Wow.
There's the drag against Sonya. The Divine Shields hits, but Chris is low, and Genji needs to go out there, and all of a sudden they are in full chase. The Abathur copy comes in, but he might be a little bit too late. Tracer the first one to fall, but Sonya is also dead.
Sonya is also dead. Shad's low too. Here's a Stormbolt, and there's a kill. ADRD on that clone is trying to be annoying towards Junkrat, but it's going to expire pretty soon. Leftovers are able to take a 1-for-2 trade.
And that started with the gank against Dehaka. But with a burrow and his essence, he kept himself alive long enough for Linked to close the distance, get the silence in, and then it's Dehaka who drops the drag right away, gets Sonya in, Divine Shield has to be used, and then just the all-out brawl that we saw there. Great team fight, and Leftovers now again slightly ahead.
Another important part of that, the isolation hitting Garrosh too to make sure he wasn't thrown out of position, so he could wait for his teammates to come in. And speaking of throws,
Nice move.
Lauber delaying just enough for that dragon to be grabbed.
Nice body blocks from Lauber here. The entire time, Garrosh trying to go left, right, and then Mopsio desperately trying to throw him onto the channel, but that doesn't happen, and now we have a Dragon Knight on the side of Leftovers. Garrosh in general, by the way, in regular league play, he's absolutely doing fantastic. We're currently seeing him with 9 wins and 4 losses, making him actually one of the most successful tanks that we currently have at the front line. Muradin, on the other hand, played by Leftovers here, had a very rough season. He has been played a lot, but he has 22 wins and 38 losses. That leaves him with a 37% win ratio, which is pretty abysmal. And Lauber, speaking of him, goes down on Muradin in exactly that instance.
Was his avatar not up?
He had Avatar up.
I guess he just felt like it wasn't worth using there.
Yeah.
The Haka on the bottom lane, it felt like maybe if he just wasted the cooldown. Sadly, that will mean the dragon gets chased away here in the top lane.
It was a bit weird because, ooh, that hurts, of course, losing Tracer now as well. I don't think he used Stone Form either on level 16 here. Normally what you're trying to do is, of course, you pop Avatar first and then you activate Stone Form to get the maximum heals out. That didn't happen, but I could have seen him survive there. Maybe he just thought he would die either way, so he didn't want to burn the cooldown because he just realized, well, death timers are maybe not long enough just yet, but if I burn both, then I'm in trouble.
Well, at least the kills come in for Zealots, and they're able to answer back and grab a fort during the dragon phase for Leftovers. It kind of hurts overall, but in terms of experience, again, this seems to be a thing we continue to point out with Leftovers. They are always tied in experience lately. 18.5 as we head towards level 20 between our two teams.
And we've been talking about it yesterday, but I feel we should mention it again. The point you just made, that they are even in experience, is very remarkable because they had huge macro problems when they started in HGC, when they came from the open division. They really lacked a lot of the speed that they needed to make good rotations happen, and they rotated oftentimes too late to catch all the experience on lanes, and now they really worked on that problem, and you can see the improvement. And again, here's another camp that's being fought over. Loba needs to be careful. This time Avatar gets popped, Riptire is in, Garrosh is in trouble. They're trying to go for him. The Divine Shield is even out of Shed, is attempting to help him here, and Zarmani is also starting to move in. The copy on Genji is starting to cause some trouble. Here comes the Burrow of the Haka as he gets thrown in, but they still want the kill, and Boss is extremely low and he falls.
Sounds comes out, looking for a little bit more kills as Chris is able to use that Dragon Blade. DAB low has to pull out the recall. Lobber kiting for the moment, and it looks like Leftovers losing to Hawker, deciding to back up.
And DAB missed the pulse bomb here with Tracer. He had a minion by accident, so that's definitely... This just showcases again how difficult this late game in particular is for Leftovers, just simply because of the strength that Sonya provides. And let's not forget, we are in a position where Abathar is scaling quite nicely here. The
That's
level
true.
13 talent that I mentioned earlier, Soma Transference, is now giving any target so much more survivability. You have the extra speed as well with level 16, and that makes especially Garrosh even more terrifying.
Yeah, because he's able to sneak up on any opponent he wants. Suddenly trying to dance around him and have that better range to make sure you don't get hit by the Groundbreaker is that much harder because he has all the tools on his side thanks to that Abathar. Now, 10 seconds we'll have Dahaka back on the field, but it's too late. Zealots already grabbing a dragon, and they're about to hit level 20.
Leftovers still have a few problems here in Dragonshire, I feel, to react to these channels, because their thought process was, if we 4-man the bot lane, we can grab the shrine. But they didn't account for someone waiting in the middle already and starting a channel on the Dragon Knight immediately. So the smarter move would have been to, again, think maybe about moving Blakidney into the middle. There's no fort there, so it would have been a bit risky, but he could have tried to go for the interrupt. The taunt is there, by the way, as we see Lauba thrown in, and again, no chance for him to even use Avatar. So this is a huge problem. They have finally level 20, but now they defend with only 4 heroes, with no real tank against the Zealots, as they are starting to go for the first keep, and Linked is just way too far out here and goes down right away.
Yeah, these kills are starting to become a major problem. Staggering deaths. Murden will be back here for 40 seconds to keep easily getting deleted, and we're going to be in a spot where Genji will pop out into that dragon so they can go for a kill if Sonya is able to find a spear. She puts a spear on top of the core, and it looks like Zealots have made the call. They're going straight for the win.
And they definitely can. They have Sonya, and Sonya's terrifying on the core, and they're starting to move in. The drag connects, but he might be too late. DAB is attacking Shat. That's not going to be enough. Uther goes down, but that doesn't help you at all. Genji himself may be dying, but the core is also going down as the Zealots are taking game number 1 against the Leftovers and take the lead.
Zealots find their steam toward that late game and start to stagger deaths against Leftovers, and that's going to be all she wrote as they grab the first win here in this best of 5. Up until the last couple of minutes, felt like Leftovers were really hanging in there, but Murden being taunted and then stunned twice by the Uther with a Benediction stun, just a little bit too much, and he fell victim.
Yeah, and that's a big problem that Murden has in general. As we said before, he's sitting at a 37% win ratio in the regular league play, and that makes him one of the least successful tanks that we currently have, whereas Garrosh is just continuing his victory streak. And again, I come back to Abathar. I feel Abathar, once that his build really unfolds, once he has level 13, he added so much.
Yeah.
The speed boost that he gave Garrosh always allowed Mopsio to move in, get the taunt, or get a quick flip and push someone into the team. Then whenever Sonya is in trouble, another symbiote head keeps her alive a little bit longer. And of course, when Chris says, hey, I think I have someone here, I think I can go on Junkrat, for example, once that AD already jumps on him, there's so much damage output in that burst where they can really blow everybody apart in that backline. So great play by them. AD already having a huge impact on Abathar here as well. Very scary composition for Zealots. But as you said, Leftovers, kudos,
yeah.
They looked strong.
Going into game number 2, they clean up the late game a little bit more, and suddenly we're in a spot where it could have been Innie's game. So, yeah, great job here by Chris in particular, just putting a lot of pressure on that Tracer. DAB not able to have the amazing game that we saw him have in Towers of Doom yesterday when he was untouched. So, showing that if you put pressure on that Tracer, she can have a difficult time, especially if they don't have that Malfurion to kite back to. While Stukov can bring in the healing, there's not that root that Malfurion can provide and say, you know what, you can't touch this space, which is really annoying for the opposing team to deal with if that's available for them.
And it's, again, it's an interesting situation that you face when you go into the draft. Since, of course, we could have seen a ban against Tracer, but then you have so many options still for the Leftovers. And ADRD just with the thought process here, okay, if we ban Malfurion out, then we still have a lot of tools. And it's always about what are your priorities in the draft? What are the resources that you use to ban something out? And if you only target Tracer, that might be a viable option against some teams. But with everything that we've seen from Leftovers, the focus on Sonya, for example, they just weren't willing really to do that. So they still wanted to have options for themselves. They came in with a clear idea. Let's play it with the Sonya as the first pick, and then try to create with Garrosh that strong front line. If our opponent still picks Tracer, it's going to be way harder for them to play the Tracer game. So it was a well thought out draft strategy from ADRD, and it planned out completely well.
Now we're gearing up for game number 2, but if you have some time at home, make sure to check out our website that we continue to work on. Go to heroesofthestorm.com/HGC, and you should be able to see all the information that we've been talking about. Interviews coming in, stats that we're constantly updating, and it's a little bit of a challenge to you guys at home. Let us know what you want to see on that website. Hit us up on Twitter at Heroes Esports and use the hashtag HGC saying, hey, we want more interviews, we want more stats to come in. The team right now, currently working on that website, really want to continue to make it somewhere that it's your first destination in your morning when you wake up. So let them know what you want to see.
I got a couple of ideas.
He's got a couple of ideas. Caldor always has a few ideas. So hopefully he'll send a couple of tweets over. And if you like them, you can always like his tweets as well. Let's go to game 2.
Wouldn't it be amazing if you could go on the website every weekend and just think who is going to win those series? Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, that would be kind of an interesting thing. Like a little bit of a bracket play, similar to like March Madness and stuff. Yeah.
You're welcome, Blizzard.
That would be pretty awesome. I would also like to be able to go to the website, order a coffee while on the website, have